Hey everybody, this is Steve. I'm coming at you. Actually, I'm coming at you from my office, but I thought I'd make something a little bit more interesting with this background here. And I'm coming at you from my office today because there was a big storm last night and it knocked out power in my house. But I did manage to finish grading the first batch of essays that people turned in for the YouTube style project. You should have a grade and on EMU Online, and on the essay itself, you should have a lot of comments from me. Much in the same way that people made comments in terms of peer review and things like that. I thought that was sort of a mixed bag overall. A couple of general observations I'll make. The first one is that the thing that's important about writing at an advanced level in a class like this is that you have to create an essay that could exist beyond the realm of the class. And a lot of times I think what people were doing with this assignment was they were answering it as if it was a test question, as if I was asking you a question and then you were responding directly to me instead of trying to address a wider audience. And so that was kind of a problem. The other thing that I thought was kind of interesting was the extent to which people were writing in a fashion that the advice that was given that exists in Joseph Williams' book. I have a hard copy of that book right here. This one, it's Lessons in Clarity and Grace. That this would probably be useful for you to think about. That is, a lot of people were working with sentences that didn't really follow the rules of clarity in terms of what's the noun, what's the action, what's the subject, that kind of thing. What's the relationship between the noun and the verb? Instead had these sentences that kind of got out of control. And a lot of paragraphs were like that too. I'm a really big believer in what Williams has to say about coherence, about the idea that a paragraph should have a topic string that runs through it, how there should probably be a sentence that you can point to and say that's what this paragraph is about, not necessarily a topic sentence, but maybe. And that a paragraph should be about one point in a discussion. And I think that got away from a lot of people. And to be totally honest with you, I think that a lot of people didn't do the reading as closely as they should have, because it sure seemed to me like a lot of people were kind of embellishing, if you will, some of the things that were not really in the reading, or not really understanding how to paraphrase a quote from the reading or things like that. So those are the ways that people kind of stumbled. A lot of people had some really good ideas and a lot of really good observations, and hopefully you saw me commenting in positive ways about that. Now, for this semester, because it's such a short term, because we're only doing this class for 7.5 weeks, we don't really have time to talk about revising any of these essays. So this semester, I don't have any sort of revision policy. As a result of that, to be totally honest with you, what I do is I soften up my grading policy a little bit. So as long as you did the essay, you made a good, valid effort, and everything, you tried your best, and it was evident that you did so, you got at least some kind of B in this assignment. There's really, to me, that seems to be a fair compromise. If you do everything that I ask you to do in this class, you'll get a B at least. If you do excellent work, you'll get a better grade. You'll get an A. If you don't do everything I ask you to do, you'll get a worse grade, a C or D or F or something like that. But anyways, for this project, as long as you did everything that you're supposed to do, you got at least a B, and the grade that you received on this is the grade that will be on this assignment from here to the end of the semester. However, there's two things I want you to keep in mind as we go on. The first one is that the last assignment for the semester actually asks you to revise one of the first 3 assignments, including potentially this one. And we'll talk about that when we get to the end. And it's not necessarily a revision as in just fix things. It's also a re-seeing of the essay and trying to make it something different from what it was before. But that's something that a lot of you might want to think about doing. A lot of you might want a second chances at this assignment. And so I pointed out some ways that you might want to look at this again if you were to look at this again for that last assignment. The other thing is that I want you to look at this assignment and my comments and your peers' comments and think about it in relationship to the things that are coming up for the next assignments, right? You want to keep in mind that, for the assignment that we're doing on style, looking at the style remix, looking at Williams and Strunk and White, that you need to do the reading on that one very carefully as well. You'll want to think about that essay in terms of how can I make clear paragraphs and clear sentences and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully some of the advice that I'm giving you on this first assignment is potentially applicable to the next assignment as well. Last but not least, and this is always, 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 always the case, if you have questions about your grade, about anything that I've said, about any sort of other concerns and things like that, you have an obligation to ask me, and I have an obligation to tell you. In other words, if you come to me and say, I don't, or email me, or we can set up a time to meet, or Skype, or something like that. if you're sort of wondering, how could I get this grade in this assignment? You need to explain this to me. I feel like I have an obligation as a professor to do that, to give you an explanation. But you have an obligation as a student to ask. If you don't ask, I can't know. Okay? So when sometimes people make comments about me at the end of the semester about how I wasn't clear and how I didn't give advice or help people through projects and things like that, I oftentimes want to respond to folks, but you didn't ask. If you ask, I'll help. If you don't ask, well, then I can't really know. So again, seriously, if you've got a concern about the grade on this or anything else, ask me and I will walk you through it. And if you don't ask me, then, well, you don't ask me, right? Okay, so that's the deal with this project. We're all done with that. Let's keep moving in earnest in terms of the style readings. Keep up with the Williams book, the second part. We're going to be talking about the first part of this coming week. And on Monday, great stuff. Hopefully you'll find that. And then we'll talk about some of the more remix examples at the end of next week. Okay, I'll see you online.